All right, so this is our mid-market commentary. What I wanted to do is to focus on a couple things today. Before we get to charts, I just have a general comment to make, and that is I've been reading more and more in the last few months about the challenge that hedge funds are having. If any of you have followed along with any of the articles that I've posted on LinkedIn, Facebook, there are some very key messages out there, in my opinion, that are all about the challenge that hedge funds are having. And the reason this is significant is because they control such a large amount of investment in the market overall. And the implosion of a hedge fund can have a significant effect on the market overall. So just in the last week, for example, there were three key articles that I saw, which I found interesting and also a little sad at the same time. An $8 billion hedge fund, and I'm just talking in generality, so I'm not giving you specific names and everything. You can go research these articles yourself, but an $8 billion hedge fund was communicating to their investors that they're under investigation for insider trading. So a lot of their past performance is now being viewed as having been associated with insider trading, which is unfortunate. And of course, they're not doing well this year. And that was on Wednesday of last week that was announced, and there was actually an indictment of one of the managers, and then that manager ended up committing suicide yesterday or the day before. Anyway, so first of all, I don't think that's ever necessary, no matter how stressful or how challenging your experience is, but it just is one example of the challenge that these hedge funds are having. When a headline says, $8 billion hedge fund implodes, it's just collapsing in on itself. And that's not good for investors. That's not good for the people that work there. That's not good for the market overall. You want reasonable stability to be able to place your investments securely if you happen to be an investor who wants to hand off your capital to someone else to manage, and you don't want to be involved in the management of it. The other one that I was reading yesterday is more about, I think it's actually more concerning, that the headline was hedge funds are not able to invest responsibly in this particular environment. So there's more and more discussion in the news about the challenge that hedge funds are having. And the reason I think it's important to pay attention to some of that, although I'm a short-term trader and I'm not involved in hedge funds, and I am responsible for all of my own investments, is because I think that it's indicative of some challenges that we may have in the environment in the coming months and even in the next couple of years. But it leads me to the thought that I personally believe that it's almost imperative that people take some personal responsibility for the security and integrity of their investments. Money is one of the primary drivers of what we do with our life. And people are trying to accumulate their savings. People are trying to save for college if they're raising a family. People want to buy a home. People want to maybe buy a second home. They want to do all sorts of things. They want to have what has been defined as a quality of life. And the reality is it takes money in order to achieve many of those things. Not all. Not everything requires money. There are some very worthwhile things that we can accomplish that don't cost anything. But when it comes to money, it's a very, very important part of our lives. And yet, the vast majority of people acquiesce the responsibility for the security and investment of their money to someone else. And it's usually someone else unknown to them, perhaps a large hedge fund who has written great reports about themselves, and has perhaps a great track record and has a great reputation, but that doesn't guarantee anything going forward. So it just leads me to the thought of reinforcing what we do at Options Moneymaker with Michael, who does a fantastic job hosting our live trading room every day, with Allison and Aaron, who provide such great support as a trading team and host our Profit Builder and our Profit Builder and our Platinum Alert services. I really believe that such an important part of our lives, each person needs to have some component of their capital and investment as a self-directed investor, self-directed trader. And so the reason I think that that's important is because of how important money is in our lives. And I also understand that the vast majority of people believe it's too complicated or they don't want to bother with it. Well, first of all, let me take the second of those two categories first. If they don't want to bother with it, then they shouldn't be alarmed or disappointed at the outcome. Because if you acquiesce something to someone else, then they will achieve a result and you may or may not be happy or satisfied with that result. So that's the bottom line. And you can't be disappointed if you've made a conscious choice to acquiesce it to someone else, take no responsibility for your investments, and then I don't think it's fair to complain about what the outcome of that is. The category of people that I think are potentially more secure are those who decide to invest a portion of their time in learning how to manage and grow their own investments. And that's what we provide at Options Moneymaker. We like to provide opportunities for brand new traders to learn how to trade options. We like to provide opportunities for more experienced traders to trade actively, as we do in the live trading room. So those are just kind of some high-level thoughts. Those of you who are in our live trading room might be visiting, or those of you who might be listening to this who have never participated in our live trading room. Those are some high-level thoughts, and I think you have to have an honest and frank conversation with yourself about what your role is in managing your financial integrity, managing perhaps your lifestyle freedom, and not acquiesce 100% of it to someone else. We also don't promote that you jump into managing your own investments with a huge amount of money. Michael is great at reminding people that if you just earn $400 a day, for example, in our live trading room, you can make a $96,000 a year income. Well, $400 a day on an average really isn't that hard to achieve. It does require some work to learn. It does require some discipline to apply what you've learned, and it requires your personal commitment to work through some of the frustrations that will occur. I'm not even going to pretend to say that it may occur. I'm going to say it will occur. You're going to have some frustrations over trades that didn't work out, or you're scratching your head trying to understand a particular concept. But once you gather that concept, and once you feel comfortable with that concept, you should and can be a very successful long-term trader. I'd like to believe also that those of you who have children and grandchildren can pass on the knowledge that you gain to your future generations and start those future generations earlier in their life cycle in terms of understanding how to manage their finances. So I know Allison started learning how to trade when she was about 23 years old, 23, 24 years old. And she started training with me because her father was a client of mine and asked me to teach her. And Allison developed herself to a skill level where she now helps to manage some family money, and she works for Options Moneymaker, and she's one of our coaches. She does a fantastic job. My point is, Allison has a lot of runway in front of her in terms of what she can accomplish in her life, and I can almost guarantee you she's going to have a greater degree of financial security and lifestyle independence, lifestyle freedom than most of her peers because of how early on she started to learn to take full charge and full responsibility for her financial future. So that was just some general comments I wanted to share because those were top of mind for me. What I want to do is to look at the center chart on your screen. That's the 5-15-minute chart from AbleTrend. And what you see there is a whole series of red dots. Michael, maybe you could just point to those red dots, the level of resistance on the 515 right there. So we have those red dots right there, and the one big red dot right there is a sell signal that developed on the S&P 500. So we follow these signals, we look for clues as to which direction the market might be going, and without getting into all the instruction on how to use these charts, we actually teach that in our Profit Accelerator program. This is not a trade I would most likely take because the blue dots are indicating that there's a level of support. So right now we're trading between resistance and support, and we don't really know which direction the index might be moving. Now, I use the 5-15-minute charts and the 3-9-minute charts that are available to us from AbleTrend in order to determine when I want to take an entry on a position. But as I've said many times before, I also then like to refer to my bar charts to get kind of a macro view of where we could potentially be headed. There's never a guarantee when we do an analysis of the chart, but what we can do is to stack the deck in our favor by looking at reliable technical signals that we've worked with before that might be pointing to a particular direction, one direction or the other. And those technical views on my bar chart will influence my decision to either take a signal on my AbleTrend charts or not to take the signal. So Michael, I'm going to jump over to my screen here just for a minute. There we go. And what I'm going to show you now is the SPX bar chart based on a 30-day, 30-minute view. And what I want to share with you here is that this declining line of resistance that we've been tracking for a few days, we've been looking at this for a few days, and this rising cycle right here are continuing to play out. So today, what happened is we moved higher in the day. We were forming a Bollinger Band snap, which tells me that at some point the price is going to snap back lower. Not immediately necessarily, but it is a strong technical indication that when the price moves above the upper Bollinger Band, that more than likely at some point it's going to snap back below the Bollinger Band. So we saw that happening early on today. We saw the price move up and form a natural level of resistance, and you can see it right here. It occurred 2107.68 was a natural level of resistance on SPX, occurred at 12 o'clock today. So that natural level of resistance means that all the price bars leading up to it had lower highs, and all the price bars so far leading away from it have lower highs. So we have a natural level of resistance that ties back to prior natural levels of resistance, and then the corresponding parallel support right here, tying to a natural level of support. We also have a cycle that formed a natural level of resistance. It ties back here, and it has two price points that are showing a natural level of support. So we have a rising cycle, which actually corresponds quite nicely to the Bollinger Bands, and we have a declining channel. And that natural level of resistance formed right at a line of resistance that coordinates with both of those. It's a convergence of resistance of a rising cycle and a declining channel. So what we've just done is we have validated the declining channel. Now again, that doesn't guarantee that we won't turn and head higher here. For all I know, we could pop up and move well up to the next level of resistance, which would be the 2119 range. But for now, what we've seen is a validation of this declining level of resistance, this declining channel, as well as a validation of the rising cycle. Now, because the cycle sits entirely inside the channel really is the dominant pattern. This cycle may be nothing more than just the movement from the bottom of the channel to the top of the channel. Okay, that's what it might be. But it gives us some parameters to work with. We know that if we were to move down to support of the rising cycle, if I extend that out, let's just take a path here. We could be down to support tomorrow, and support could potentially be down around the 2088 level. So when I see this type of a pattern, it leads me to want to use that, incorporate that into my view of the Able Trend charts. So if I saw a sell signal appear on SPX, and I see this pattern where I've just validated resistance on two different patterns, I'm more likely to jump early into that sell signal and not wait for confirmation. If I see a sell signal on, or let me put it this way, if I saw a buy signal right now on SPX, I might still take that signal, but because of where we're trading and because I know that my macro view from my bar charts is how close we're trading to resistance, I would probably wait for that buy signal to confirm itself before I would jump in. And in our Profit Accelerator course, we teach how to confirm the signal when jumping in is early and more aggressive versus how you validate and confirm the signal. So this is what I'm seeing on SPX, and I really wanted to emphasize today the comparison between the Able Trend 5-15-minute chart and then the SPX chart. The time period isn't as critical on the bar charts. It's more about capturing the cycles and the waves here. And you can see as we drill into a 10-day, 10-minute chart, how cleanly that moved right up to that level of resistance and then fell away. We could move right back up there again, or we could find ourselves trending back down to the bottom of this pattern. We could even find ourselves trending down below that because, again, if you back up to the 30-day, 30-minute, you see that the declining channel actually has a support that's down as low as around 2042. Well, I'm not expecting it to get there. I'm not expecting it to drop there immediately, but you can start to look at all the different time periods of the patterns and see what would be a reasonable possibility. These are the types of movements that financial media will quickly jump on and start using all sorts of very dramatic words to describe in headlines, that if SPX, for example, were to drop down to the support of this rising cycle, which would be around 2060, Michael and I have seen terminology such as a death spiral and contagion in the market. And there's all sorts of very dramatic words that are used. But the reality is, if you become a very confident, non-emotional, technical chartist, you can start to see how those types of movements could occur. So what if SPX moved down, let's just say, to the 2040 level? That's not at all out of the question, and I'm not predicting that it's going to do that. All I'm saying is that's a reasonable possibility, just strictly based on the pattern interpretation. So I take all that into account and then take a look at the 3-minute, 9-minute Able Trend charts, as well as the 5-minute, 15-minute Able Trend charts, and look for the specific signals of when to get into a trade. Right now, this isn't telling me when I should enter into trade, because in the live trading room, we have a desire to be very active traders. We have a desire to do some amount of day trading, and if that day trade doesn't work out, we're going to create a managed scenario that allows us to hopefully retire that position rather quickly. If I'm a long-term trader, meaning I might only look at the market once a day, and you can be very successful doing that. That's actually what our Profit Builder program is geared for. If I'm a long-term trader, I can trade off of a pattern like this, because as a long-term trader, I might not have something as detailed and robust as Able Trend. But this would be an indication of a rollover position where I might go well out of the money and open a long put vertical spread or open a short call credit spread to take advantage of what looks like could possibly be a continuation of a move to the downside, because we just validated this prior this declining level of resistance that was previously defined. So let me just take a quick look at NDX. You're going to find a very similar pattern here. See, look at this. We've got a declining channel, which we validated this morning with a natural level of resistance. And that ties back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas of natural levels of resistance prior. And we've fallen away from that level of resistance. We also have a cycle that sits inside that declining channel, which as of right now looks like it's nothing more than just part of the movement to the upside from the bottom of that declining channel. So we validated resistance of that rising cycle at the same time. And so could we possibly trade back down to the 4407 range, somewhere in there? Absolutely, it is not at all out of the question, because it would be a natural cycle back down to the bottom of this pattern. In fact, we were trading at the bottom of that pattern as recently as yesterday, and all of this movement to the top of the pattern has really occurred just today. The prior day, we were trading also at the bottom of the pattern. We moved to the top of the pattern and then right back to the bottom of the pattern. So you can see the number of times we've been at the bottom of this pattern and the number of times that we've been at the top of this pattern. So there's no reason for me to be suspect and interpret things into this pattern that I can't clearly see. What I see right now is that there is a stronger bias to the downside, because we just validated both this rising level of resistance and this declining level of resistance, and we're just coming off of a Bollinger Band snap pattern. Those are all things that indicate to me that there could potentially be a greater bias to the downside. And again, just to repeat myself once more to add emphasis to this, now I look at the Able Trend 3 9-minute chart and the 5 15-minute chart, and I'm looking for sell signals. I'm primarily looking for sell signals, but I'll look for any signal that tells me it's time to get into a trade. If I saw a signal to go long, to buy a call on the Able Trend charts right now, I would have to, because of my view, wait for that signal to confirm before I would jump in, because I just want to know that it's a strong confirming signal. I could possibly move up another 10 points or so. That would be enough for me to take a profit. But I'm going to wait for a confirming signal because of where I see my bar chart pattern. If I saw a signal to go short because of this pattern, I might jump into that position a bit more quickly than I normally would. So let me just take a quick look at RUT, and then that'll be it. All right, so I need to do a little bit of work adjusting RUT here. So I'm going to move that. I'm going to pull my level of resistance up to the natural level of resistance that formed today. I'm still working with this one single natural level of support, and that's why I could so easily adjust this pattern. I don't think we're done assessing this pattern and finalizing where the parameters of this pattern are, because support is a single price point. So that can act as a pivot where the angle of the channel will shift. But we do have a rising cycle within this declining channel, and yet we stalled out at resistance of this declining channel with a natural level of resistance. So could we move back down to rising support, which would be around 1153? Absolutely. So that's what I take into account. And then a lot of people will ask me, how do I incorporate news into my trading? Now, for the most part, I do not incorporate news into my trading. And today is actually a day where there may potentially be a lot of news that affects the markets with the vote going on in Great Britain. Are they going to be part of the European Union or not? That is having a potential impact on the markets. The problem with that is I don't know which direction that news is going to drive the market. So I almost always revert back to my charts and use my bar charts to get a global view, a big picture view of what's happening. And then I'm just going to strictly rely on my Able Trend charts to take signals. I emphasized this yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. Regardless of what may be going on in the news, regardless of what I may see presented to me on my bar charts, regardless of what signals are presented to me on Able Trend charts, I will never overextend my capital. I will never put myself into a risk situation that makes me uncomfortable. So even if there is pending news that could push the NDX up 100 points or down 100 points overnight, it doesn't matter to me that much because I'm never going to be in a situation where I've overextended my capital to a point where I can't manage my way out of that position. I can't resolve that position. It's just a safety valve that I'm always going to leave for myself, and one that I strongly suggest you do also. All right, I hope that's helpful to you. For those of you who are subscribers in our live trading room, I sincerely appreciate you being here. Trading with you, trading with my team makes trading a lot more enjoyable. Trading can be a very isolated activity. It is one of the best small businesses anybody could ever get into, anybody could ever think about getting into. Every business that you could think about starting is going to require some amount of effort. There's some amount of risk associated with it, some amount of time associated with it. But when you really boil it down, and if you did a side-by-side comparison of this as a business, trading as a business, and you compared that side-by-side to most any other business that you could possibly think of, this, in my opinion, wins hands down. And here's one of the biggest things. In this particular business, think about this. How many businesses could you start where you never have to go find customers? You never have to go find a client. You never have to convince a client to come and buy your products or buy your services. You don't have to do that in trading. You don't have employees, you don't have warehouses, you don't have inventory, you don't have significant overhead, you don't have manufacturing costs, you don't have all that stuff. But there are challenges with learning how to trade. You need some sort of an education program. You need some sort of support. You need somebody who is there trading with you so you don't feel isolated, because it can be a very isolated activity. Well, you provide us an opportunity to trade with somebody. Now, Michael and Allison and Aaron and I would be trading together if there was nobody in the live trading room, because we like to trade together and we share ideas with each other. But we love having you in the trading room. If you're just visiting the trading room and this seems to make sense for you and would fit into what your personal financial goals are, then we'd love to be the ones to help you. We have education programs that will teach you exactly what we do in the live trading room. That's our Profit Accelerator program. If you're just trying us out and yet you're not ready to trade actively, maybe you don't really know anything about options, but you thought this was kind of interesting to sit in on, our Profit Builder program will teach you how to trade options. You can start there. So appreciate everyone being here, and Michael and Allison and Aaron as a trading team. They're a great team to work with. We have a lot of fun working together, and we're here to make money, and we're here to help you learn how to make money. Be back again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.